Well, I'm delighted to welcome Ranald Macdonald to the second of our series of interviews for UK Cigar Scene magazine. Ranald, welcome this morning.
Thank you. It's very good to be here.
I wanted to start off by we were briefly talking about your first pipe when you were 18, but do you remember your first cigar and what got you into cigars?
My first few cigars didn't go down particularly well when I was in my mid-teens. But I remember one evening after dinner, my father used to hoard liqueurs. He'd bring all these bottles of liqueurs out and put them in front of him. And then my brother and I would sit with him while he drank his liqueurs, and we'd be given a little splash of this and that. And I had my first cigar that really made sense to me. And it suddenly just worked. It was a harmonious moment. Suddenly I saw that I got the point. And I didn't try and inhale the tobacco.
Yeah.
I was patient with it. And it just was one of those moments. A bit like, but not quite as good as having sex for the first time.
Wonderful, wonderful. And then, so you went from cigars to a pipe?
And then when I was 18, a friend of my mother's, who was quite a character, and he used to come and stay quite a lot. Anyway, he was an old soldier, and he gave me this pipe when I was 18, and took me to the pub for my first legal drink. And we sampled different bitters and sampled different tobaccos, and I ended up liking Claire's medium cut in the pale blue tin,
Right.
which tasted quite aromatic. Didn't smell as aromatic as some of the others, but had a nice flavour. And rather precociously, I sort of smoked a cigar for about 6 months, and then went on to Rollies.
Right. But now back to cigars.
Mm.
Excellent. So I remember the days when the smoking ban had just come into effect, when everybody who liked cigars in London beat a path to the terrace at Boisdale's in Belgravia as being the one place where you could really enjoy a cigar and a drink. Tell us the story of the development of the start of Boisdale's.
When we opened Boisdale in 1989 or 8, I'm never quite sure which year it was. It was definitely October. And I didn't realise cigars were going to become a particularly big thing, but we just always had a humidor of cigars. In fact, initially, I bought my cigars simply from Silverstone's. Do you remember Silverstone?
No.
They had San Luis Rey.
Okay.
The one Cuban
Right.
brand that Hans
That's
and Frank I
outside.
didn't have.
Right, yep.
And I always liked San Luis Rey, particularly because it's Frank Sinatra's favourite cigar.
Know that.
And so I had this range of cigars, and I suppose it's in the early 90s that I became aware of the cigar culture that was developing in New York and America. And there suddenly was a rush on to open the first cigar bar in London. Now at this stage I'd opened up the back bar at Boisdale. I hadn't taken over the premises, which is next door to us, which is where we have our main restaurant now.
Right.
So we were half the size then. So I overnight just called the back bar, which we called the back bar because it was in the back. And we had a little camera at the front on the street and a sign saying, "Please press the bell and look at the camera and smile sweetly." We'd all be in the back bar looking at this little black and white camera, looking at the people ringing the bell, deciding whether or not to let them in. It's quite good fun. It's like this little speakeasy bar at the back that there was no other access to. Anyway, overnight I called that London's first cigar bar. Because I already had cigars, and everyone was talking about opening a cigar bar, so I just called it a cigar bar. And I suppose we had quite a good selection. We had 2 Century Box humidors of cigars, so we had pretty much the Cuban range, which didn't strike me as a lot, but actually was probably more than anyone else, probably.
Wow.
But I do remember talking, so I remember actually, which I do remember, this is just remembering it, that Hans and Frank had this really charming, dapper, Lancastrian prestige account salesman called Derek. Do you remember Derek?
No, I don't.
Little velvet collar on his coat,
Okay.
dapper guy, 3-piece suit, virtually had a watch chain, I'm not sure he did, but he's a proper chap. And he used to go around all the accounts the casinos and the smart hotels. And I always used to pour him a glass of Pol Roger. We'd have a Rafael Gonzalez, Trey Petty Lonsdale, a Good Morning cigar, and I'd have a chat to him. I was probably only still in my 20s, and I talked to him about what was happening in the world of cigars. This was actually a very formative moment that I'd totally forgotten about. Anyway, one day Derek was saying, well, you know, Ranald, in his Lancastrian voice, you probably have the second best selection of Cuban cigars in London. And that hit a chord. Suddenly I thought, second best? I had no idea either you were in the top 10, or it hadn't even occurred to me that there was a position to be held as number one. So I said, well, who has more? I think he said the Gavroche or someone, I can't remember who it was. So I immediately doubled my stock there and then, and that's the point when I said London's first cigar bar.
Right.
So quite opportunist.
Yeah.
So that was 1994, or thereabouts.
Right.
So it's quite early on, the cigar thing.
Yeah.
And then the whole cigar thing began to become more and more fun because there were shortages. Nothing makes you appreciate something more than a shortage of
Yes.
that thing.
Yeah.
So there's massive shortages of Robustos, people having to experiment with El Rey de Mondes, and it was all very exciting.
Yes.
To get to have the stock. Have you got particles for? Have you got this? And that,
Yeah.
Having too much of everything makes you appreciate things rather less. So it's good fun having shortages. So that was the start of that bit. And then we took the lease for the building next door in 1997. And the building next door had been Francis Bacon's studio.
All right.
So there's a big skylight there.
Uh-huh.
And we took us about a year to get all the necessary permissions to have live music. I was obsessed by the idea of having live music.
Right.
And we turned the front of Boisdale into this fairly biggish, we were putting these 6 humidors in the entrance.
Right.
And then we definitely had the best selection in London. And I claim the best selection of Cuban cigars of any restaurant in the world, but I don't know whether anyone had more. But we had everything. We had every Cuban cigar that was made, plus a selection of vintage in 1998.
Right.
No, 99, that's when we opened. So then it was great. We had our golden age was the best collection of Cuban cigars in the world, arguably, and great live music every night. So every night you could sit, smoke a cigar and hear great jazz.
Yeah.
But then along came the smoking ban.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it became very important we opened the terrace. So we did.
And that was, and I do remember, I remember going with an American friend of mine and sitting up there and actually eating in the back bar, going upstairs, sitting up there absolutely shoulder to shoulder on a Friday night with people. It was absolutely rammed, and it was really the only place in London where you could sit outside all year round and enjoy a cigar.
Yeah, it gets a bit chilly.
It does, but it's if you've got something warming.
But a lot of the cigar terraces now are more like rooms.
Yeah.
And we were quite confined in what we could do. No, we weren't even really allowed balustrading.
So let's move on a little to and bring everything up to date. I know you have now 2 restaurants in the city, of which
So we opened the other half of Boisdale in Belgravia in '99. We then opened Boisdale at Bishopsgate in 2002. I then opened Floridita in a joint venture with Conran in 2004.
Oh, right, okay.
I then bought the Lambert Hinden, which I sold a few months ago, in 2004 as well.
Right.
Which is a pub with 20 rooms.
Yep. I know it.
And then we opened up Floridita Moscow in 2006, Floridita Madrid in 2005, Floridita Dublin 2006. I then did Bodeguita del Medio in Kensington in 2006. And then that's it really. And then started negotiating for Boisdale Canary Wharf in 2009. In fact, the bare bones of the deal was done in March 2009, which was the time when everyone was worrying about whether or not their money was safe.
Right.
So it's quite a good time to do things as it happens. Then we opened, but that took a long time. It took a long, because they had to raise a lot of money for that. And the whole process of putting it together is a big beast.
Yeah, it is.
So we didn't open that until May 2011. And now we're 3 years on. And that, I think Boisdale Canary Wharf has the most beautiful humidor. It's very pretty, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely fantastic. It really is, yeah. And a great place. And you now have that set up as the cigar library. So you've taken advantage also of the sampling, as well as the terraces. You have the indoor.
Yeah, we have a cigar shop next to our bar and next to our cigar terrace.
Right.
So you have the opportunity to, you got sustenance very close at hand while you're sampling cigars.
Right. And it is I was lucky enough to, I've been there 2 or 3 times to events, and it has the most fantastic atmosphere, and the music side is tremendous. So that continues your passion for music as well.
Yeah, we have live music in all our restaurants every night, but Canary Wharf's got a 25-metre stage, so we have quite a range of music, from jazz early week to blues, and then soul nights on Friday nights to big acts on Saturday nights. But we have we can get 200, 240 people in the room, so you get quite an atmosphere.
Yeah, and Jules Holland, who is a well-known, who everybody knows, but is a cigar man himself.
He is, yeah.
As your head of
he's our patron of music,
which is a great thing.
No, he's a great man, Jules, and he has wonderful enthusiasm for music and cigars.
Yeah. He strikes me as again one of the good. Now, all the people who smoke cigars are good people, but he strikes me as one of those down to earth people. He doesn't seem to be a sort of starstruck from a distance.
No, he's very clever. He's got a very good attitude on life.
Yeah.
And makes everyone feel very comfortable.
Excellent. So yeah, and if you can, the food. I know food is and your the food from your heritage as well. The ethos, but the ethos of Boisdale is something special, isn't it? I mean, it's a great place. All of your restaurants are a great place to go and have fun.
Yeah, well, that's what I'd like to think. And the more fun you have, the better it is. But you can have fun with food, wine, cigars, music.
Yeah.
Company's the first thing.
Yeah.
The company's more important than anything. But then you add the layers of activity and you build a bit of a party, even if it's just 2 of you.
Yeah. And I came last year. I know the Cigar Smoker of the Year is coming up, and that was one heck of a party. I don't suppose Andrew Neil was the Master of Ceremonies, and I don't suppose in all of the editorial conferences that he's managed over his years, he's ever had such a hard time as he was given on that night. It was quite hard to make himself heard at times.
Well, I think it was a mistake starting with the martinis at 5 o'clock.
Right.
Everyone was pretty blitzed before they started dinner.
Right.
And yeah, it was a hell of a night. We're not going to start with martinis this year.
Start a little more gently.
Yeah, it was quite a night, wasn't it?
It was. No, it was absolutely fantastic night. Really, really great. No, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and a great thing, to recognise the Simon Le Bon that last year as the Cigar Smoker of the Year. A great thing to do, and with the support of the spectator as well. It's a great thing. Again, standing up for cigar smokers and really shouting about it.
Yeah, it was exciting. Yeah, it's going on. We've got the next one coming up in a couple of weeks.
Girding your loins. And the other thing that happens, and around about the same time, and we talked briefly earlier about vintage cigars and what's happening with those, is the cigar auctions that take place as well. And that's a great event. You go back, and I know there are fewer old cigars available, really old cigars available now, but there's a huge interest in old cigars, isn't there, in the market?
Well, there's something about, when you collect, as a boy I collected coins, and I still get a bit of a rush when I pick up a coin that's got the head of Augustus on it, and I think this coin's been around for a couple of thousand years.
Yeah.
And you feel something similar when you hold a bottle of cognac the fruit was coming off the vine in 1815, the year of Waterloo. And there's something about, but with cigars you don't go back quite as far, but going back pre-embargo is quite exciting. Going back pre the Second World War is quite exciting. Yeah. You're smoking something that had been alive and growing under the same sun in 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. There's a human interest and fascination with age. Yeah. But there's also a developed flavour and profile of the tobacco which becomes rather delicious, rather like, not all wines will age for 20 or 30 or 40 years, but some do, and some tobacco is really sublime with a bit of age. Then there's the collector's element of it all. Value seems to go up. Yeah. So it justifies purchasing more than you can really necessarily smoke. And sometimes maybe you don't even want to smoke them because you don't want to open the box.
No, that's right. That's right. Yes, these aren't for smoking; they're for collecting.
Yeah, and they're lovely. And it's a bit like a lovely bottle of wine.
Yeah. So I know also you're a great fan of Cuba, and I still have burnt on my memory the sight of you coming out of a lift at the Hotel Nacional, dressed in this absolutely fantastic pink flowery shorts and shirt combo. So bringing the Boisdale ethos to Havana, and I know you run the tours out there, and I know they're famous for everybody having a really, really good time at the times of the festivals.
We have about as much fun as you can have in a week. It takes a while to recover, but I've been doing it for 16 years. And it started off as a sort of a busman's tour. It was an opportunity to get me to Cuba by making a business out of it. And I now do it because I just love doing it. And the similar, so we get some new people every year, but also some people who've been before, maybe 3 years ago, or some people come every year. So there's just this nice eclectic crew, and it's just a lot of fun.
Sometimes some people go every 2 or 3 years because it takes them that long to recover, maybe.
There's that sort of talk.
Fantastic. Well, Ranald, it's been absolutely wonderful, and we're going to finish off with the 3 standard questions we finish these interviews with. So, start with what do you like to drink when you smoke a cigar?
My principal choice of beverage is always alcoholic, and my favourite alcoholic beverage with a cigar is undoubtedly red wine.
Interesting.
That is what I like drinking with a cigar.
Excellent. Any particular one?
No, the big argument, or just often made point about pairing a cigar with a drink of sorts is a discussion of harmony. But I don't think it really matters who's on top, so to speak, whether it's a cigar or the beverage. So sometimes a spirit or a wine can follow the strains and flavours of the cigar. So maybe have a light Pinot Noir, which will play second fiddle to the cigar. Right. And sometimes you have a spirit or a wine which will dominate the cigar and be on top. So I don't think there's any rule about how things do work in a harmony. Right. They're like combining colours. I mean, they can match, they can be direct opposites. So I don't think there's any golden rule. Right. So pretty much I drink what I want with what I want to smoke. Right. And you end up with harmonies of sorts that occur to you and appeal to you for different reasons.
Got it. And what would you say is your favourite place to smoke a cigar?
By my fire in my sitting room at home with some music that goes with my novel and a glass of something nice is pretty sublime.
Excellent. And last question, what is the finest cigar you can remember smoking?
Let me think, I just don't know what it is. Then my first Epicure number 2 that really worked for me, and I suddenly realised I was in heaven,
Right.
was pretty bloody good. I don't know whether I'll ever get any better than that. I smoked a lot of great cigars in Cuba, but but part of the problem is when smoking so many great cigars, you don't. Part of what makes a cigar great is not smoking too much.
Yeah.
Now, 1 cigar a day is going to taste a lot better than 8 cigars a day.
Yes. Yeah.
So sometimes I've been rather spoilt. So maybe my first Epicure number 2.
And when you do get a good one, and
They're
that just
amazing.
that floral, the floral aroma and that
little-
comes off, is
that sweet
absolutely
and sour
wonderful
tang.
from a Epicure.
And they're really delicate and very complex, herbaceous. I find the first 2 inches of an Epicure good. I don't find the end of the Epicure that good. And I found them less good recently, funny enough. I had 2 boxes that have been slightly disappointing.
Yeah, I one of the cigars I really remember is an Epicure that I had from a cabinet at Fox's, and when I go in there, I always just say what shall I smoke, and that just I sat in there and smoked it, and it was just floral, just quite extraordinary.
Well, I think they've gone downhill a little bit. I think since they've been banded, since they've become better known, maybe the production's up a bit from where it was. It's now quite when they're unbanded and just cabinet selection, it's rather lesser known.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe more coming to the British market. Maybe the Spanish weren't smoking them so much then.
Excellent. Ranald, it's been absolutely fantastic. As ever, I've learned a lot. I've thoroughly enjoyed the interview. Thank you very much indeed. Really
Thank
great.
you, Nick. It's been a lot of fun, but I've still got half a cigar left.